Hello, and again, welcome to Bit Depth. I'm Santiago Ramones. Across from me is...
Dylan Walling.
How do we know each other?
How do we know each other? Well, we both worked at School of Rock for a little bit in Oklahoma City. I still work there, so...
Yeah. I think we had also met one time at a, networking event at The Root.
That's right.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but...
I nearly forgot about that. Yeah, Root was a good place.
It was a cool place had it not had all of the other problems, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know too much about the behind the scenes stuff. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I know more than I let on, but I've not enough to make judgments.
Right.
So.
There's a greater conversation about the Oklahoma music scene that I'm sure we're going to get into no matter what. So
yeah.
So who are you? What do you do?
It's a hard question at this stage. I would have just said, I'm a piano player, singer for Haniwa. We're no longer playing together, but I still play piano. I still sing, but now I just kind of float around and do my own thing. So I'm playing a little bit of bass for this band, the Sweet Talkers. Bass is not really my instrument so much, so it's been kind of a fun little challenge to help out with that project. They're really cool guys.
And I've had at least two of them on the podcast, so
I'm guessing Adam
and Dakota, yeah.
And Dakota, okay. We should get Tyler on here. He'd be fun.
I should get Tyler on here. I've been meaning to, but yeah.
They're fun. I've had a blast playing with them. But yeah, I'm sure at some point I will start playing more music around here again, but I'm not in a hurry. So
yeah. How did you get started playing piano or in music in general?
Yeah, piano is what I started with. Yeah. My grandma was a piano but doesn't really play much anymore. But she was for a long time very serious piano player, and she just taught me ever since I can remember. And then I don't know, I got the bug at some point and just kept playing. And I think the only real branch that's kind of noteworthy is, I was doing classical when I was starting. I was all classical music, and then in high school, I guess I pivoted more towards rock music and a little bit of jazz here and there. And much to my grandmother's dismay, I am no longer doing classical music so much. So
right. What led to that transition? I mean, other than just teenage angst and rebelliousness.
That's probably the best explanation. Right. Honestly, I don't know if I have a better one. I don't know. I guess that's just what I was listening to. I mean, I still like classical music just fine, but especially impressionist music, Satie and Debussy and Ravel, all those I still actually will listen to for pleasure. But other than that, I just, I didn't really listen to it for pleasure. So.
Right. Who were your biggest influences whenever you made that jump?
Radiohead was a big one. Sonic Youth was a big one. I was really into a lot of the 90s, kind of underground alternative stuff. 80s too, Pixies.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think kind of your normal indie hipster fare for early to mid 2000s, which is when I was in high school. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've had more than a few conversations about Radiohead.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did you go from, I mean, did you join bands? Did you just play by yourself? And
yeah. Oh man. Okay. So I was in a band in high school, and Luckily, I mean, fate has it that one of our bandmates from that band later went on to be on American Idol and went up got like top 6 or something, and has had a great career since then. His name's Casey Abrams. And but when we played in a band for a little bit in high school, and we were we were called 3 guys and one's a Jew.
That's great.
There were actually 5 of us by the time it all ended.
That's so much better.
Yeah. So
was there still only one Jew though?
There was.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Casey was our token Jew. So yeah.
What genre of music did 3 guys and one Jew play?
We played crap. I don't know. Not very good music.
Right.
I don't know. Our guitarist was really into Mars Volta, and I was really into Radiohead. Casey, I don't know. It's hard to say what he was into. He likes really eclectic out there music. Like, you know, he owns a sitar, if that's any.
Sure.
You know, like. So I don't know. We were. I think it was proggy, but like bad proggy because we're in high school and can barely play our instruments in a convincing manner. So yeah.
Where do you go from there? How do you go from like? I mean, I don't know if music was like just a hobby to you then, and then it like became a real thing as you grew up and got out of high school. How did that become a real thing?
I don't know. I think I was really probably more ambitious as a teenager than I am even now. Like, well, especially now, but like, yeah, I think that's what I wanted to do even then. I think, you know, the kind of the narrative you build in your head of like being a rock star or like the path to rock stardom is much more clear and less icky than it actually turns out to be. You know? So I think I was at that point like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be a rock star. So
yeah. How is that? I mean, yeah, how has that path sort of gotten muddier and ickier over time? What stops people from just becoming a rock star right now?
Rock is dead. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I don't know the industry well enough to like say how much, you know, how much money is really rotating around, but it's not much. It's obviously not much, you know, and it's, I think the music industry was in a really interesting spot in like 2010, a little bit before that, a little bit after that, where a lot of power needed to be consolidated, and like, you know, this was still at the height of like music file sharing and stuff like that. And I think that was a really exciting time to be in music. And I think at that point in time, it definitely was like, you know, it felt like the Wild West, you know? But now it just seems like, and you know, it always goes in peaks and valleys of, you know, the industry being really consolidated into just a bunch of like media giants, and then it breaking apart when different trends come about that people don't expect, or you know, whatever it is. But I think we're in kind of one of those periods of consolidation where it's just like there's just not a need, it doesn't seem like, for a whole lot of new sounds, or and I think that's always the truth until a really new exciting sound comes about, you know. So yeah, that's a long-winded answer, but I think that's
I kind of asked this question, I ask it a little bit later, but since it's kind of relevant here, what does the future of music look like from this point to you? What are you hearing, or what would you like to hear coming from the pioneers?
Well, this could be a question that could get really, really lengthy with an answer, because
That's the point of a podcast.
Yeah, right. Yeah, true. Well, I guess I would say that I think that there is a very, very interesting, and this is not true for just music. It's true for like, it just seems like kind of like cultural appetite in general.
Sure.
Where there's this really, really strong draw toward nostalgia, or kind of like reinventing or retooling sounds that are already familiar. And I think there's something to be said for that. I mean, I think I've heard it a lot growing up that, it always goes in circles where one decade will be really fixated on a previous decade, you know? But I'm kind of beginning to think this is getting into the territory of being a little unprecedented, where, because I even remember in the 2000s, like when I was like 15, 16, where people were saying, oh, 80s is popular now, but come 10 years, then it'll be the 90s, and then come 10 years, it'll be, wrap back around to the present. But it hasn't really played out that way, and it still seems a lot like 70s, 80s, 90s nostalgia is just so inundated. Like listen to Vaporwave, and it's like all of those just trying to recapture nostalgic sounds. Or you listen to lo-fi hip hop, and it's all of this like really
that Japanese girl will never stop studying.
No, she will never stop studying. Bless her heart. Yeah, she's in it for the long haul. But yeah, I think that that music like that seems to suggest that we really are not looking towards what does the future sound in terms of new sounds, but we're more like really invested in how to retool old sounds. So I guess I want us to go in one way or the other, like either like just go hyper into like just combining and like tool bashing like these, or kit bashing these sounds together, or because like if you look at like the history of like funk or other types of especially the 70s, where just tons of genres are coming out of the woodwork, like, but a lot of those genres are trying to like find a sound of the future, trying to be the next sound. So I don't know where that's gone. I don't know where. Doesn't seem like that's a real thing that happens much anymore, where people or groups, because certain people are going to be doing that, individuals, but as a whole, I don't know of any genres that are like, oh, this is the future of music. So,
is there anyone that you've heard lately that you've like been excited about? A lot of jazz folk I hear talking about Jacob Collier a lot, but
yeah, Jacob Collier's pretty obviously a bright musician. Jacob Collier is for me a little bit more interesting to hear him talk about music than listening to his actual music. Not that it's bad or anything. I don't know.
He really likes that wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. He like referenced it in like 5 songs.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. He seems like how, people talked about Mozart, where he's just like, oh, this guy is a lunatic. It just all over the place, but he's so bright. I'm sure that's kind of a similar personality type. I don't know. I think he's pretty cool guy, pretty fascinating, cool, musician. But in terms of music I listen to and actually think is I really liked Igor. I really liked Tyler the Creator's last album. I thought that was pretty forward thinking.
Yeah. All right, since I like went out of order and like messed up the things,
no worries.
How did you get to teaching music?
Well, I didn't plan for it. I'm sure that's obvious to some of my students. uh, I I worked a bunch of really crappy desk jobs where I was just trying to be practical, I guess, and like didn't think that I, could make ends meet with music. And then I just got burnt out on crappy desk jobs, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna try and do music now. And so yeah, it was kind of just like I don't know, just a wild hair, I guess.
Right. Well, I mean, it turns out that like you can make it work if you have the right tools at your disposal and stuff. So I mean,
yeah, and I'm I don't make as much as when I worked my crappy desk jobs, but I'm a lot happier.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
Sure. So
doing music every day.
Yeah. I mean, it can get monotonous. I'm not gonna lie. It can definitely get to to be a job, but it's at the end of the day, yeah, I'd much prefer teaching it over like health insurance. Like,
yeah. What is something that you find that you're always telling students that like, or that kind of brings that light bulb moment?
I think the cool thing, this is cool for School of Rock, especially like that they're very song oriented with their method, and that fits kind of like how I view getting good at music, which is you really your fundamentals are important, but you can only drill so many things until you just like, what is the point of this, so like when you've got these songs, especially with these kids that like come in and they're like, oh, I really want to play X or Y song, it's like when it becomes song oriented and you're trying to get these kids to play these songs that they're passionate about, that's when the light bulb comes on. It's like, oh, okay, now not only can I talk about music in a way that is not just that makes sense to other musicians, I should say, but I am playing this song that is personally, dear to me, or I'm passionate about in some way. And that's a really cool thing to watch. That's my favorite thing, actually, as a teacher, is to see kids get to that point.
So. What drove you whenever you were learning and getting better as a musician to kind of get past that like hurdle of music is hard and I don't know if I want to do this, to like get to the point to where like this is everything?
Yep, the Final Fantasy X theme song. Well, that was step one. I got really obsessive about that song and learned it, and that was a big light bulb moment where it's like, oh, I can do this. It's like everyone knows, like, oh, you practice hard and long enough, like, yeah, but not me. Right. But it's like, no, I can do this. And then I got really probably a little too big for my britches and like, okay, I'm gonna do Pathétique by Beethoven. That was my like jumping hurdles.
That's a fun one.
Oh, it is. It's a great song, but but yeah, I think I had to go back and trace my steps a lot, because when you take big leaps like that, you miss things. But I do think there's a value in biting off more than you can handle.
Yeah. Where is the point with students where they are hitting a wall? What's the most common wall that students hit and kind of keeps them from getting any farther or even quitting?
I'd say there are two of them that I can think of that are pretty common. The first is when kids spend too much time learning songs through YouTube, which I'm not completely against. Like, I think there can be some value in,
good ear training.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And it tends to be the kids that are good with their ears that gravitate towards that. And they I think that that becomes a problem when it just becomes, when you start comparing with how quick it is to learn those songs compared to learning it through notation, especially when kids are just at the stage with the staff that they, have to really struggle note by note, and there's not really that strong sense of intervals yet, or that strong sense of rhythm, where they can just kind of go. I think kids get really frustrated with how slow the old fashioned way is, but then you get to the point where it's like, well, not every song is going to have a YouTube tutorial, and when you start playing with other musicians, that's when it really gets rough, because no one has the patience to like let a musician sit and learn a YouTube tutorial before they play a song. No one's got the patience for that. So, but so that's one. And then the second one is a different kind of student. I have found that kind of my more that there's a type of student that will be motivated by, like a routine, or like a kind of a, like, okay, we're progressing through the scales, and I can see that as a progression, but they don't have a thing that they're really going toward.
Yeah.
And so what happens with a lot of students like that, from my point of view, is like they get to a certain point where it's like, because you get your foundations on piano, and then it just branches, it stops being so linear in terms of things that you learn in order, you know? It's like you can start learning about modes, or you can start learning about chord relationships, you can start learning about the history of music. There's infinity paths that you can go now, and it stops feeling like a ladder that they're climbing. And I think that those students, if they don't latch onto a song or an objective or a goal, they start petering out.
Yeah. No. What is, I guess, getting into like more here, how do you feel about Oklahoma's music scene, and how has your experience been with it, given that we're here?
Yeah, I mean, there's not enough money in Oklahoma right now in the music scene. I think that's just completely obvious to everyone who's a musician here. Like musicians that tend to make it here tend to go other places, and it's obvious why. You know, I mean, you've got a handful of musicians that'll stick around. Obviously Wayne Coyne and Flaming Lips. And then there's a handful of others, but
that's a whole other tier that doesn't even apply to the rest of us.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, everyone hopes to get there, but I mean, it's like you have to make ends meet until that point, and it's not really, you can't, I mean, I don't want to say you can't, because people do, but it's very, very hard to just play music and support yourself that way. And that's true probably everywhere, but it's more true when it's like there are just such very tight passageways that lead to visibility and recognition, and where like there are upstarts in places like Los Angeles and Chicago. Like there are new record labels trying to get up, and they have money behind them. They've got investors, they got things like that. But people you're going to be pretty hard pressed to get people to invest in that kind of thing down here, because there's not a lot of history. I mean, that's the thing that's tough to say, because there's a ton of history for music in Oklahoma, but there's not that strong musical culture that there are in other cities, So I think that what has to be done for musicians is, I mean, a lot of what's already been being done, where musicians go out to see other musicians, and musicians support other musicians, and you know, you build a culture of musicians that becomes attractive to other people. And one of the biggest things that I would say, if you're in a band and you're like talking shit about other bands backstage, which, you know, most bands are guilty of to some degree, like just stop. Like, it really is true that a victory for anyone coming out of Oklahoma is a victory for pretty much everyone in the music scene, because if any good attention that's coming out of here is going to help build that narrative, you know, the narrative that there's cool music happening here. And instead it's just like we get in these petty, like dramatic, just spats that, where it's just like the music scene just kind of cannibalizes itself for no gain whatsoever. And it's really irritating to see. I don't think people are seeing the bigger picture when they start getting really comparative with their own band compared to X or Y band from Norman or whatever. So,
right. Getting more to like you, you write your own music. Do you write your own songs, sing your own songs? What do you write about?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I'm pretty political. I write a lot about politics. And just like, not, I don't want to say, I don't, you know, not like a lot of, you know, because there's like, you could think of like System of a Down or whatever, and it's like, okay, BYOB is about the George Bush administration. I'm very rarely that pointed, you know.
Sure.
But I am pretty socially minded, and that, and so that's tends to affect my writing. But you know, I still write about the same schmaltz as every other. I have love songs and breakup songs, and songs about family, songs about death. You know, I got all. I like to think that there's not too many topics that I'm just like, no, I'd never write about that.
Right. Do you have a goal for yourself as a musician or as an artist?
I think for the first time in a long time, not really. And it's kind of nice. I think like I said, like when I was in high school, I was extremely ambitious, you know? And it's not to say I'm not ambitious. I've got plenty of goals, but more my goals are more qualitative now than they are like, I want to make this much money or play in front of this many people. It's more just like, I want to make an album that I'm like, I will be stoked with for more than a month. So, you know, like that's kind of where my goals are at right now.
Yeah. And I mean that even if it doesn't mean success, like career wise, at least you're happy with yourself.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I think that also, just sorry to keep rambling, but I think also you get to the point where it's like, man, I don't know how much of my vision of like what my dreams were really just kind of like how much did I actually want that, you know? After a while it's like, man, I've been playing shows like twice, like 2 shows a week for a year now, and like I am sick and tired of playing shows. I'm sick and tired of being in front of people. It's like I'm an introvert. I did not know what I was signing up for with this. So
what's a hurdle that you've gotten over in the past musically, or the whatever that might mean, and then what's a hurdle that you're still working on?
I think a big hurdle was when we toured on Haniwa, toured. That was a big lifetime long goal for me to do that, and that was a super important milestone for me. And it was, you know, a really, really great memory. And I'm really glad I got to do that. Played at some really cool places, met some really cool people, learned a whole lot through that experience. And it's that was a huge hurdle for me. I'd wanted to do that for a very long time. And then what's a hurdle? What was the second?
One that you're still working on.
I think I want to try to help be a music. I think I want to get to the point where I can help be an influencer in the music scene in Oklahoma in a positive way. I think that's my next pivot point, where I was thinking about this the other day of just like how in the internet or in culture, the broader scale culture, you don't see as much like stark division between like genres anymore. I mean, obviously to some degree you do, but you know, most people that listen to pop music will listen to hip hop. You know, most people that listen to hip hop also have, you know, other interests. And like you listen to jazz music that's coming out of like the Blue Note in New York and places like that. It's like, it doesn't sound anything like bebop you know, it's like totally fused with other genres, you know.
That's why I call it fusion.
Yeah, fusion, yeah, for sure. And and so I think there's a whole lot of like genre bleeding right now that's in the main culture sphere, the bigger culture sphere, that Oklahoma seems to kind of be behind on in some ways. I just see like this super kind of like isolated, you know, hip hop scene that's doing really, you know, there's a lot of good hip hop in Oklahoma. And then you've got the indie stratosphere, which there's almost no crossover. And it's like, that just seems bizarre and wrong to me, you know, like, so I think I would like to see more like shows that have integrated genres, and also just like more collaboration, you know, where you see just like hopefully to a point where there can be kind of like where singer-songwriters will join someone for a show or something like that. And I think that's another thing that's a tangent completely different. I'm not going to get too far into it, but it would be really cool to see, for those who are not in a band, to see shows where people are like bringing other songwriters into just for one show, you know, just for one thing, like where that show kind of becomes its own little special thing, you know? Because I think so much of shows right now, there's like, well, I can catch this band next time, you know, but like if you have like, oh, we're playing with this band together and we're both playing and it's going to be this thing that if you miss it, that's it, you know. I think people would dig that. I would dig that. So
and then more of the like broader, well, actually no, one last one on what's something people don't understand about music?
Literally everything. I don't know.
or about doing music.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I'm doing.
No one knows what they're doing. It's literally all made up. The barrier of entry is pretty low, much lower than people think it is. If you have an aspiration to like play music and you just are not because you're like, oh, I don't think I'd be any good at it, like I really should not be holding you back. Like,
there are people making lots of money who are not like supposedly great musicians by whatever standard you're holding yourself to.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think there's a whole lot of like, well, I just don't know enough to do it. Like, it should not be a barrier. No one knows what they're doing. So
okay, now for the broader philosophical questions about music. What is selling out? Is there such a thing as selling out?
Well, yeah, I think so. I am not, I'm like, when I think of selling out, I think of Modest Mouse. That's the first band that comes to my head.
Really?
Well, not because I think they sold out. I mean, maybe the argument could be made, but that's just what I remember people being mad about. You know, like people are like, oh yeah, Modest Mouse isn't good anymore. They sold out. This is ancient history. Like, I don't think Modest Mouse is even really listened to. Like, I know that they've had like a couple of new song releases here and there, but I don't think people are.
Strangers to Ourselves came out like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah,
that was their last album.
And that one was not my favorite.
I really enjoyed it. So
yeah, different strokes.
Sure.
But I don't have an opinion on whether or not they sold out. I don't know them well enough to know that, because I think what selling out is you have a core set of values and you're like, well, this core set of values isn't as important as making money, or whatever. And it's like that core set of values, a lot of bands don't have that starting out, or it's a different core set of values. And in which case it's like, am I mad about like 21 Pilots or Imagine Dragons being huge famous bands? Like, no, not at all. Like, I'm not gonna say that those bands sold out or say like they shouldn't be doing what they're doing. Like, good for them. That's probably what they wanted to do,
Sure.
Now if a band, I don't know, if for whatever reason, like Black Flag became as big as Imagine Dragons, I'd say, yeah, that's probably somewhere along the line, someone made a compromise or two, but that didn't happen.
Yeah, so. I don't think that man is capable of of doing that, like, physically.
No. No, I don't think so either. So I hope I'm not... That was a hypothetical. I want to be super clear about that.
Do you separate art from the artist?
I'm not a modernist, if that's kind of what that question's alluding to. I don't super subscribe to the death of the artist. No. But I also, try to give the best, clearest answer to a very hard thing to answer. I think I can appreciate an album like My Dark Twisted Fantasy by Kanye West just as much now as I could before Kanye became a big asshole, or a bigger asshole, more visible asshole, more gaping asshole, if you will. But like, can I separate his latest album? I'm forgetting the name of it.
Jesus is King.
Jesus is King. Yeah. Can I separate that very easily from his public persona? Not very easily, and it's like, I feel to some degree it's like wasted effort to try and do it, try to be like, okay, I'm in this meditative zone where I'm only listening to the music, only taking it on its values. I don't do that with anything else. It's like if I go to a Burger King and there's like literal human shit on the floor, I'm like, well, I'm just going to eat this burger. I'm going to take it only on its values, like it's, I don't do that with anything else. So it's kind of one of those things. I think music is as good as music feels it's good, So
why music?
Why music?
Yeah, why not?
For me or for someone else?
For you.
For me? Oh, I don't know. It's just seems impossible not to at this point.
Yeah.
I don't think you get head songs stuck in your head that just appear out of nowhere, and it's like, well, I got to write this down.
Yeah.
It's like just kind of a spontaneous thing at this point. I wouldn't be able to stop if I wanted to, but if I stop being ambitious about it, I guess it's because it's it really is a hard thing to do professionally for long periods of time.
Yeah. What's, and not necessarily regarding music, what's something that people don't normally know about you?
About me?
Yeah.
Like people that are, I guess people that know me, that would have to be the target that you're talking about here. People that actually know. Okay. I'm pretty open book, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't have a whole lot of opinions I don't share.
Right.
I guess one thing is that people probably not know about me is that I really, I really, really love the theater, and it's been a long time since I've done anything with the theater. And so people that knew me from when I did stuff in theater will know that I love it, but I don't think people know that I have had that in my past, and that's something I have been really passionate about.
Yeah. So. Have you like kept up with the goings on in theater world?
No, not at all. I wish I had.
Shake up with Hamilton and Dear Evan Hansen and all that. Yeah,
not at all.
Yeah,
wish I had.
Those are the only like two things that I know, so I'm very lightly.
I was really into Shakespeare, so that there's not a whole lot of new Shakespeare coming out.
Okay,
so
yeah, right.
That's just a complete lie, because there's a ton of new Shakespeare coming out, but not from the author.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Whoever the author was.
Ooh, Shakespeare conspiracies.
Right. Yeah.
I like it.
Completely changing gears, and there's no good way to transition into it. What is the role of spirituality or religion in your life?
Man, it's significant, but it is significant in a way that is not going to be, I don't know how to phrase this. I don't know that I believe in anything supernatural all that much. I have read a lot of spiritual literature. I read the Bhagavad Gita. I've read a handful of sutras, a handful of a little bit of stuff from the Pali Canon. Kind of basic precepts of Mahayana Buddhism. There's a lot of Eastern philosophy that is very appealing to me, and not as I don't know as much relatively about the Abrahamic religions. I would say that I am really attracted to spirituality, but I don't fully believe it, It's more like there is a spiritual side of just living. There's a spiritual side of just kind of like the qualitative aspect of life, where it's like there is just something about this. There's just some core to this that is just very odd and very hard to describe in a way that sounds like, oh yeah, that's what life's all about. That's we've got it figured out. It's this and this and this, and it's neurons, and it's I don't think what I'm describing is a soul. I think it's just a really cool aspect of a very complicated system, which is the human system. So Alan Moore, the comic book guy?
There it is.
Well, yeah, nice. Watchmen. Cool.
That's not mine. I need to return it to Jimmy Jackson.
I'll let him know. He has a thing where he talks about like how he was kind of transitioned to be a magician, and that he was like, oh, I'm gonna, like his spirituality became literal magic and like performing ceremonies. And I'm not that deep, but I think I see like at my best and at my most spiritual, I look at my routines as rituals, and at my most spiritual, I look at my, my art as magic, where it's like, there's something about this that is just like just explaining it in like super science-y or super like logical positivist style manner just doesn't seem to describe what's actually happening. So that's a super long-winded answer for what I think about
No, and that's exactly the kinds of answers I like hearing by asking that question.
Cool.
how did you come to be drawn to Eastern philosophies? Because obviously it's pretty uncommon in the Bible Belt where we are.
Yeah. Well, I lived in California for a while.
Okay.
So I think that California was probably just as, if not more, like influential in my like, soft preteen brain, you know. I don't know. There was a meditation club, if you can call it that.
Sure.
A meditation group in high school and
youth group.
Youth group, yeah.
But
for
Eastern philosophies, I guess.
Yeah, for well-to-do white art kids,
right?
Like who were gonna be doing their little hippie rituals, but no, I mean it was very
sounds California enough.
It's extremely California. Incense and everything, but it was great, and I was really into that, and I think that's kind of just I took it from there, and did a little yoga in college, and the yoga teacher was very, very much not the kind of like practical yoga instructor that you kind of see like in most places. She was super into like all of the like the tantric aspects of yoga and stuff that I wouldn't even bother trying to describe because I don't know anything about it. And I haven't maintained an interest in to such a degree as she did. But I think all of, teachers like that were really the ones that sowed those seeds. So,
yeah. Back to the evergreen questions. What is your definition of God?
I'm assuming. I mean, I guess the definition I operate with is just the thing or things or entity that created the universe. I think that would be the most godlike thing. I don't think anything that doesn't meet that definition would really anyone would be like, yeah, that's God. It's like, yeah. So I think people talk about the universe that we exist in is God, and I don't know if that just doesn't feel super satisfying to me as an answer. It's like, well, God implies some degree of intent to me, like that there's some kind of intention or design, so but whatever works for other people.
Sure.
Like it's not a concept that I dwell on a whole lot in my day-to-day life. So yeah, I'd say if there is a God, I would only be like, yes, I acknowledge you as God if it in some way created the universe.
Sure. I guess the embedded within that question is God, yes, no.
Who knows? I'd say it's probably just as likely that this is some kind of really advanced computer simulation. Who knows? Like I don't I think there's a pretty strong acknowledgement even in scientific communities that you get a certain point back in time. It's like, there's no way to know how anything what happened before this point. It's just impossible to figure out. So, or maybe it's not impossible. I'm talking about this like I know what I'm talking about, and I don't. But as far as I there's got to be a limit to human understanding. I truly believe in a limit to human understanding, and I think at some point the threshold that you're looking for that's going to say yes, there is God, no, there is no God, lies beyond that threshold.
Sure.
So,
is free will an illusion?
At least a little bit, for sure. I think. Yeah, I think free will. I think we are much more influenced by our material world and our social happenings than we like to admit. or that we can even at some times actually comprehend. I was thinking about, this is a thing I think a lot about, not the free will question's good, and it's an important question. I think everyone should have an opinion on it, but more specifically, like, why do we do some of the things that we do? Like, why do we put up a pine tree, and during Christmas? Why pine tree? Everyone does it. Like, you never walk in and see someone with a maple tree. And,
sure.
Like, it's a pine tree. It's like, I think it's easy to say, like, free will exists very much in, do we get a tree for Christmas? Those are decisions people make. What tree we get is not a decision people make, That's, I think, where, we see our choices as being logical and autonomous, but there's a layer to it that's not, There's a layer to it that's automatic, and I think it's very cultural, and I think it's very material, and I think we only make so many kinds of decisions, and a lot of the decisions that are made without our conscious involvement have a pretty significant impact as well. So so we kind of have free will.
Yeah. I like that. How do you determine what good behavior is?
Oh, okay.
I acknowledge that I ask very hard questions, not expecting people to know the answers.
Yeah, I had no idea we were going to go down this rabbit hole.
Sorry.
I'm glad. I love this stuff. How do we determine what good behavior is? So I guess for clarification, are you saying good behavior like
moral?
So this is a question of ethics and morality. Yeah. Okay. It's not just like obedience or
sure.
or like politeness, because you could say someone is very polite and they're well behaved.
Right. Yeah. No. I asked the question for some people who have a very grounded structural religious understanding are very clear in what that answer is to where the morality comes from. But there's a lot of people that I ask the question who don't have that same sort of structural religion thing to point that finger. And so where the morality comes from is an interesting question to ask.
Okay. Yeah. I'm game. Okay. So I don't believe in a universal morality insofar as I don't believe that morality is unchanging. I think that morality, I think it's not even an opinion. I think it's observable that morality and moral standards change from in history. The moral standards of even colonial America are not the same as today. And you go even further back, the morality of ancient Greece is very much not like what we have today.
Those kids are fine.
Huh?
Those kids are fine.
Those kids are fine. Yeah. Oh God. I think our morality right now, if we're talking about, all you can do right now is kind of say morality is has something to do with generosity. I think there's a clear tie to that there is morality exists in how people interact with each other. I don't think morality, I think there is a morality towards the self, but you can't talk about morality towards the self without acknowledging that it originates from an interaction with other people.
Yeah.
And I think that if there is to be something that is universal about morality, it has to do with kind of a general, looking at an exchange between two people. Say this person has is going to interact, or we're going to trade in some way, right? Where I'm going to give you more value than I'm getting back, and that's intentional.
Yeah.
So there's an intent there as well.
Cool.
I think that that's the foundational morality, but I don't know. That's a hard question. So
yeah, no, I think you laid that out in a very like good, clear way.
Well, good. It didn't seem clear
ways that are more in ways that are more specific than a lot of descriptions that I've heard.
Cool.
Oh, I'm sure you'll enjoy this one. How do you live with or against the selfishness that pervades American culture?
I'd not well.
Right.
I have a rough time with it. I don't know. It's I am in a constant state of just being way more angry than I wish I was. It's, I don't know. You combat it with empathy, obviously. You know, I think that's how you deal with it. You learn to understand that even the people that you most hate in the world operate in a generally logical way, you know, or at least in a way that is, I guess, let me put it this way. You know, you take someone who I would say I am morally at odds with, or someone who I would consider to be a person you'd point a finger to and say, this is a selfish person, or this is a person that's causing problems in American culture. And people are going to disagree with me on this all over the place, but like Jeff Bezos would be someone I would point to as a figure like that. And I'm sure, I'm not going to go to Donald Trump just yet, but Jeff Bezos is who I'm going to start with. You know, I can extend a degree of empathy even to someone like him, who I just feel like is running a business that is terribly exploitative and puts workers in just really unacceptable conditions, and has more money than he needs to have, or that anyone needs to have, or that we can even fathom a person having. Like, and, you know, but I know that there is a very basic human component that is saying, you know, like, what is best for me in this situation? And that is a hard thing to criticize in certain ways. You know, it's like the actions that Amazon or any of these huge corporations take make sense for the people that are making them. It's not just purely malicious. You know, it is what it really is negligent. You know, it's saying this benefits me, but the costs I'm not concerned with. You know, the costs that don't impact me. And it's not, I thoroughly am against the idea that it's greed, that it's a personal greed. I think that our the economic systems in play right now very much reward this type of thinking. Like, if you already think this way, you're more likely to succeed. That's what I think. But I don't think that's the same thing as like our only, or that, you know, if we get rid of the greedy people, then we solve the problem. That the problem is that type of thinking is rewarded. How do we stop rewarding that? That's the question in my mind. So
thank you for bringing up the thing that I've talked about a lot of times on this podcast, and you said my thoughts out loud without me telling you them.
Beautiful.
Then I should switch the order of those, so I will. Do you believe that humans are evil by nature?
No. No, not at all. I think the only thing that you once again could call, I think it's like a butterfly effect type thing. It's like you could call it the root of evil, but it's not. It's a hard thing to criticize. I think everyone has this, you know, this self-preservation mechanism, you know, this like this willingness to compromise certain things if you know it's just like, well, why would I not do this? You know, to not do X or Y thing would be to spite myself, you know? And we're all aware of that. It's just like this little thing. It's like, well, I've got to do what's best for me, you know? And oftentimes it's not just what's best for me, you know? A lot of times you have kids, and what's best for you is also what's best for your kids, you know? And what's best for you is also what's best for, you know, your community or the people that you're working with, or there's a billion ways to justify and rationalize that kind of thing. And that's the unfortunate thing is I think that's where evil comes from, you know? It's like not to get too extremely controversial out of nowhere, but you know, we're getting ready to be in a war right now. And like, you know, it's going to be you're going to see a whole lot of like, you've got to do what's best for your country, you know? That's that same mechanism in play in my mind, at least. It's like, well, you know, it's the people dying on the other side are people too. You know, there's not really anything inherently. I don't know most of these people just as well as I don't know the people that are getting ready to go, you know, to be killed on the other side, you know? And it's like, it's a small compromise in the brain that says, well, this is probably best for me, you know? And that's where I think evil exists. But I do not think people are default evil. No.
Yeah. What are you optimistic about for our future?
God, I'm not a very optimistic person.
Which is kind of one reason why I bring up the question, because I have all of these like dark questions. So I try to break it up at the end a little bit.
Nice. I like that. I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic in the sense that there is an energy that comes out of chaos, of this like super tumultuous, chaotic time, that the energy gets as extreme as the circumstances. Now, this is a humongous caveat to that optimism, is that energy can be kind of directed in any which way, you know, but you know, it's not as though we stay as placated as tensions ramp up, you know, due to whatever, you know, economic strife, climate strife, problems with immigration, any number of things. Like as those things get more and more severe, people's engagement with these things gets more and more energetic. There's more and more focus and visibility with these issues. Like I think we're the most politically, socially conscious generation in a very long time.
Yeah.
And that can be an extremely good thing. And that's the energy required to fix the problems. If it does.
Yeah, I like that. Few more.
All right.
What makes you content?
I'm generally a pretty content person these days. As I'm sure no one on Facebook seems to think that would be the case, but no, I am. I'm pretty content. I like the new Pokemon game. It's really fun. I love teaching. I mean,
real quick, Sword or Shield?
Sword and Shield?
Sword or Shield.
Oh, Shield. Okay, yeah, Sword, Shield's what I'm playing. Yeah, I'm working on my doubles team right now. So I've got to get all those perfect IV and EV trained Pokemon, because I'm.
Oh, you're in that level of Pokemon.
Yeah, I'm that level of extremely nerdy. Yeah.
I don't even play Pokemon. I just have like a base level of nerd cred I need to keep up, and so I have to know about these things.
Yeah, well, yeah. That honestly, that's more what I am too. I suck I'm like straight up, I suck at competitive Pokemon, but it's fun. So,
right.
and it makes me content. Going back full circle into the question.
But sorry, teaching.
Yeah. Yeah, teaching's great. I love teaching. It's one of the few jobs a person can have where there's like, oh yeah, there's no moral ambiguity to this at all. I mean, I guess maybe if you wanted to get really under the microscope and like, well, what's the relationships of the teacher to student, power structure, like
there might be a thing to be questioned as far as the content of the music that we are teaching.
Sure.
I once taught a girl that was a little too young, and she wanted to sing Bad Guy by Billie Eilish. And I didn't quite feel comfortable about that, especially not with her dad in the room.
That's super, super valid.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. I haven't had that many with that, especially with piano.
Yeah, that's a little different.
Yeah, there's very few. Although there have been a couple of kids that are like, I want to learn, this Triple X Tentacion song. I'm like,
yeah.
What? This is what you want to learn on piano? I mean,
yeah.
Cool. I mean, honestly, it's just like, all right, we're gonna try to find a version that we can listen to, but then we'll learn it. But no, I completely agree. Like, there is some content to some songs that I wouldn't feel comfortable doing and haven't felt comfortable doing. But that's the exception,
right?
Rather
Exactly.
than the rule. Yeah. But yeah, those things make me content. Most things make me content. I'm generally pretty content.
Yeah.
So,
okay. When will you be satisfied?
With music or just in general?
In general.
I don't know. I think I still am fishing for the project that I will be truly happy with. I've had a lot of good projects, and I'm not trying to like just gloss over the things I have been able to put out, but I generally have a very short half-life for how long I want to listen to my own music. It generally reaches a point pretty quickly. I'm like, there's nothing I just want to get away from it.
Right.
And that's like the curse of the musician, is like, you can't not see the process in your music, and that other people are free from. When people hear it, they just hear the song, but you hear the hours in the studio or writing it, or the
how you disagree with that lyric or that note.
Exactly.
Now.
Yes. But at the time it was what you wanted. Now it's like, what the fuck was I thinking? Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not expecting to make something where I will always be happy with it, but I want to make something I still want to get to a point where I'm like, this is an accomplishment I can die happy with, and I don't think I'm quite there yet.
Yeah. Here's a question that Mac told me to put into the podcast.
Okay.
What's the point?
What's the point? Damn, Mac. I thought you were saving the happy ones for the end.
Yeah, well, when will you be satisfied and what's the point are a little bit interlinked. So okay. That's where the
what's the point? I mean, does there have to be a point? I guess is my answer. Like,
yeah,
I think there's a certain freedom in like, doesn't that feel like kind of a shackle? It's like, oh, here's the point. This is the point for sure.
Yeah.
Like, oh shit. Like now everything I do is either getting me closer to the point or further away.
Sure.
Who wants to live like that?
Right.
I think I would rather there not be a point.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I like that answer a lot. All right. Yeah. What advice do you have for people in general?
My advice right now is just, there's going to be a lot of things are going to get crazier and not less crazy in the world, broadly speaking. And now is the time more than ever, decide what it is that you believe in. Like, please decide what it is that you believe in, like, and don't compromise those things. Yeah, because I just hate seeing such a level of cowardice and a level of just negligence for other people that I don't think would exist if people took the time to think about these things and took the time to like really say this is what is right, this is what is wrong. It doesn't have to be universal. Like I said, I don't really believe in that, but this is contextually what is the correct thing. And I hope people decide these things that needed to be decided.
Yeah.
So
last one. Cake or pie?
Cake or pie?
Yes.
Shit. You really are saving a lot of the hard hitting questions. Oh God, I gotta go pie. Pie is just better.
Yeah.
In general, there are lots of good cakes, but lemon meringue. Is cheesecake a cake? Really? It's a pie.
I usually
right?
have that be a corollary to cake or pie. So
so you're just gonna leave me in suspense?
Yeah. I'm very strongly that cheesecake is pie. Yeah. It has pie crust. The consistency of it is pie-like. Anyways, cake usually has like the cloudy, crumbly air bubbles thing.
Right. Yeah, and cake's like you don't ice a cheesecake. That would be disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't ice a cheesecake. Yeah, it's a pie. I'm 100% decided on this. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, pie. Pie is way better.
Dylan, thank you for doing this with me.
Thank you, Santiago. I had a blast.
Where can we find you and your things if you want them to, I guess?
I have Facebook? I don't know. I don't know. Just the market, the store, the Mitch Hedberg answer. You can find me at the store. No, I don't have a lot of social media presence, but you can, if you look for me, you can find me. So
yeah, and there may be music in the future coming from this person.
Yes, there probably will be. Yeah, at some point.
Yeah. Again, thank you for coming all the way out here because it's
my pleasure. Yeah, it's been fun.
So yeah, since the plugs usually go a little differently rhythmically, so I'll just go. I'm Santiago Ramones.
Dylan Walling.
You can find everything that I do on my website, santiagoramones.com. I make music. There's also all of the Power Cycle stuff that is blowing up. So Power Cycle is I can't even call it a band. We are a trio of experimental electronic composers. We have an album coming out on February 3rd, which is also the Electric Pizza concert that is at the Jazz Lab at 7:30. Yes, that's a Monday. I'm sorry, but I'm not. You can also pre-order that album on the 10th of January. It's called Too Many Damn Cables because we make electronic music and there's just too many damn cables.
Seriously accurate description of that kind of
thing. And the single will be coming out January 17th, which will be streaming on all of the places. So yeah, check it out. Follow our social media at Power Cycle Music, where you will be seeing videos of strange things punching you in the face. Just it's videos of cables, but you wouldn't think it is. Yeah, and I'll try and be posting that every day. So Power Cycle stuff, big things happening. Or you can go to infinitonemusic.com/Power Cycle. And all of the other, and that'll give you just everything, all of the Power Cycle stuff. So, do I have anything else to throw on that? Yeah, I think in May there's going to be another Electric Pizza concert where the members of Power Cycle and some other people will have commissioned pieces that will be played by instrumentalists from the UCO School of Music. So that'll be some fun stuff too. Big stuff happening. Every musician is required to say big stuff coming soon.
Big stuff coming soon. Yeah.
But now I actually have the stuff to say it. So
awesome.
Yeah. I also failed to mention that Too Many Damn Cables is an entirely improvised album of music. We did not like plan any of those pieces. There's just recordings of music that came out of our rehearsals. In between us rehearsing actual things of music for concerts, we just noodled around in between things, and 2 albums came out of it. This is the first of those.
That's dope.
Yeah.
It's a really cool idea.
That's one of the longer plugs I've had. So I always end the podcast with my 3 things. They shape my life philosophy. Those 3 things are: love never fails. It's going to be okay. I might be wrong.
Ooh.